Hello Tennos, Zelp here, and today we're going to take a look at a mod called Iron Volt. Now this is an augment for one of Wukong's ability, which is Iron Jab. This augment has been out for a real long time, and there are plenty of really great videos about it, especially when we're talking about the synergy between that mod and the Arca Titron. Now if you haven't seen it, Tactical Potato made a video of it, and I would highly recommend watching the one from Xandypant.
The Arca Titron has a special mechanic where every time you kill an enemy, you get a charge of Slam Capacitor, which increases your slam attack damage on your next slam attack by 100%. That stacks up to 10 times. And Wukong has an augment called Iron Vaults that increases your slam attack damage by 500% and increases its range by 15 meters. Can you see where I'm going with this?
Over there you can see how the Arca Titron performs and synergizes with the augment. Since the augment has been out for so long, there's probably nothing much to talk about, or is there? Before we continue on with this video, there's a few things I'd like to get off my chest. First of all, this video is not going to be scripted because I don't really have enough time at the moment. And secondly, I want to show you one good example of a situation that I face sometimes down in the comments.
By Jonathan, please check your results ! Doesn't freezing the enemies, finisher, and stealth damage, which works with primaries as well as melee. When I cause enemies to sleep with Ibra, duration and range build, my Rocta Ballistica practically triples in damage. Please make sure that when you freeze them you aren't doing stealth damage. Try to redo your results with a CC frame.
There's just so many things wrong with this comment. First of all, the Ballistica is not a primary weapon. Secondly, finisher or stealth damage should always be 8 times or more. And that is way too many exclamation marks for a request. But hey, at least he said please twice. Over here we have the Ballistica. I don't have the Ragda series, so I'm just gonna use this one. It's not format or anything. I'm just gonna use a Hornet Strike. Now the way I'm gonna test this is really easy. All I have to do is make sure that I freeze an enemy. So let me just kill all enemies and make sure that it is paused and simulate. Now if I hit him and there is no yellow numbers, white numbers would appear. That would mean that it is not doing stealth damage. Simple as that. There you go, white numbers. In case you're wondering in terms of damage, I've also tested that. I'm just not gonna pull you guys in and drag this video on for one person. Now can it still be right? Yes. Because we have experienced before a slight difference between mechanics in different platforms, even though the update has been applied a long time ago. Which is why instead of going Ballistica, the first question that I had for him is he playing on console, because I am testing this on PC. But sadly I did not get a reply, so please let me know if you're on console, test it out on PS4 and also Xbox, and let me know if that is really the case. I remember my dad used to say that knowing a little bit can sometimes be more dangerous than not knowing at all. And I feel like this is one of those cases. To me, it's not what you're trying to say that bothers me, it's the way you say it. I'm not easily triggered, but then I do have supporters, and sometimes statements like that could create chaos in the comments. So I would appreciate if we are a little bit friendlier when we type. I actually have more to rant about, but I'm gonna save it for another time. Right now let's take a look at the Iron Volt. With an unpaused enemy, you are doing normal damage, which means that there is no stealth damage involved. So you can see that your damage is really low. Even with the Iron Jab, you're not going to do that much significant of damage, because at a level 130 here, a heavy gunner has so much armor that damage reduction applied is so huge. If only there's a way to bypass that armor, you should be able to do a lot of damage even on something like the heavy gunner. So over here we have the Pangolin Sword, and this weapon is being overlooked by a lot of people because it has a really low base damage. However, it does have a unique mechanic, which it can proc bleed at 100% chance on every ground slam attack. Now this is a slash proc, and you guys know better than me by now that bleed bypasses armor. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to synergize that with the Iron Volt and see if we could kill these level 130 heavy gunners in 1 or 2 hits, okay? So first of all, I'd just like to let you guys know that I have condition overload on, which means the second time I do a slam attack, it's going to do a lot more damage because of condition overload. I also have ran this combination because since all of these items probably gonna be bleeding, I'm gonna get a lot of melee combo counter. So let's just start and see. Now the range is really far, even enemies all the way there is also affected. Now let's do the second one. And you can see that the second one is dealing a lot more damage than the first tick. But however, the damage still is not good enough because the life pool of these enemies is relatively high. So even though you could ignore the armor, your damage is still not high enough to take out the pool of health that the enemy has. So to combo this, to counter this, we further try to increase the damage by opening them up to finishers. Now you can do this with a help of a friend, like for example Excalibur with Radial Blind, and that will work perfectly. Or if you really want to solo this, you can use something like the Zac T. Now Zac T has the ability to open enemies to finishers, so we're going to try and do that with this setup. Now I would actually recommend having the Ferox as well for obvious reasons, because you can pull them all together. Okay, that's one. Now let me try and show you guys another hit. There you go. Boom. And they are pretty much a guaranteed dead. Now this guy, he did not get the second hit. So the first one actually brought their health down to half. The second one will actually kill them even more than half because of condition overload. A while ago, this is actually a lot easier to achieve because damage over time, if you could proc it and then go into stealth mode, you can actually do stealth damage to the enemy and it will have the added damage multiplier. However, that is no longer the case, it seems. But if you really have to, if you really want to do this without the Zac T, you could still do it. All you have to do is make sure that the enemy is open up to finishers with your ability, which is your third ability, and then do a ground finisher. Now here comes something a little bit more interesting. The Iron Vault description is a little bit misleading, and it actually doesn't really do what most people think it does. A lot of people believe that it has to be a ground slam attack, but it actually doesn't. If I have to rephrase this, it's more like the first hit that you do after being launched by Iron Jab into the sky with a melee weapon. With that said, it would seem that if you are in the sky for too long, it would also still get cancelled. So there is also a certain duration involved, it seems. So to prove this, over here I have the Twin Basslock with gas damage, because the damage per tick is a lot easier to see because it's reoccurring. So we're gonna test the damage and we're gonna see if it's true. Now in case, let me just go back here and show you. In case you haven't noticed, that the spin attack is the highest of them all. Wall attack, leap attack, and everything else is lower than its spin attack. So basically what this means is that if I do a spin attack and it procs, that damage is pretty much the highest that it can go. If you see an even higher damage, is due to some other reasons. Alright, so for example, right now I have a heavy Grenier, so I'm going to do a spin attack. Boop. There you go, it procced. Can you see the damage is 155 damage per tick. Alright, now to prove this, now I'm gonna do a Iron Jab. I'm gonna do a spin attack just before I land, and you can see that I'm doing 1619 damage. 1619 damage. Let me try that again. There you go. 1619 damage. To do 1600 damage gas damage per tick on the heavy gunner that is level 130 is crazy, considering that it has so much armor and that the damage reduction is so huge. If you were to try this with an ancient healer or something, it will melt them instantly. So just for fun, let's try with Miaming Strike and Organ Shatter and see what happens to these level 130 heavy gunners. Now again, this is gas damage, so it's insane, right? Here we go. Pop! Oh my god! Oh my god! What the hell is this? it seemed to okay, so basically it did a lot of damage. I think it's about 8k per tick if you hit one enemy. If you happen to hit more than one enemy and they kind of proc together at different angle, it could potentially do even more damage to an enemy that's standing in between, for example. There's also something that I like to share with you guys, is that when you're doing this, there's actually a little bit of trick. If you land sliding, it doesn't count, but you don't want to slide too long. So when you land sliding, it doesn't count, so you can actually slide a bit and then do the slash, and it still takes the damage from your Iron Volt. So I'm going to show you an example over here now, just so that you know that you're sure that it is from Iron Volt. I'm going to do a normal slash. So you can see it's 788. Now this is because now I have Mamming Strike and Organ Shatter. Now I'm going to try with that combo. Alright. There you go. See? It's about 8.35k per tick. Amazing. With that understanding of the mechanics, or at least what I believe it does, technically in theory it should also work if you could manage to somehow fire something like the Redeemer while you're in mid-air after the Iron Jab. However, you can't really fire when you're in mid-air, so you can't really test this, but it should work if my theory is right. Now, there is a weapon that you could launch while you're in mid-air, and it is still a melee, and that is a Glyph. So a Glyph type weapon could still do this. And over here we have, I only have two types of Glyph weapons. One's the Halikar, another one's the Glyph. I'm just going to use the Glyph, even though this one is actually slightly better because, you know, you could disarm enemies and stuff. I'm just going to use the Glyph. With the Glyph itself, you can't actually launch it while in mid-air. It'll just attack. However, if you put a one-handed pistol on, now when you jump and you use the attack, it will fire itself like that. So let's summon some enemies and have some fun. So over here we have a bunch of ancient healers. Jump up. Boom. Now let's try it over here. Boom. And over here one more time. Just so you guys know that those ancient healers are paused, so the stealth multiplier is taken into account. However, they are level 130 ancient healers, and now we're gonna showcase a fight against the heavy gunner. To be honest, it's not very impressive considering because the armor is so high. It's actually reducing the armor by a significant amount. I mean, reducing the damage by a significant amount. So for example, over here, there you go. It's not a lot. It's about, I don't know, 20%, 15% health gone. Now again, because we have the Zakti, we could use this and potentially do way more damage like that. And the explosion actually affects enemies around as well. So it could, how do I say, it could spread. The damage could spread. So let's do this again. Should be able to kill him one hit now. There you go. So not as impressive as the one with the bleed, not as impressive as the one with the slide attack, but still really good. Let's say 20 butchers at level 130. Oh, my PC's lagging already. I need to wrap this up quick before it crashes. Okay, so all you have to do is just them and they'll die. Level 130 butchers. You don't even need the Zakti and they'll die. What I'm trying to say here is that for most of the content the game has to offer, you should have no problem with any of those ideas that we talked about. Now there's a few more things that I like to say before we end this. The Glyph, you should have at least quick return and also power throw. This will actually cause the Glyph to explode upon hitting the first enemy, and that's really useful because you want that explosion. The explosion is also going to be buffed by the Iron Volt because it's based on the initial damage, and the initial damage is affected by Iron Volt. Another thing that I like to talk about is that when you mod the one, where is it? My Pang Sword, Pangolin, something. There, Pangolin. I modded it this way. I actually used a potato on this just to see how far I can push this. If you have a lasting sting at max duration, this is going to work wonders. However, one of the key things here is actually Seismic Wave. You can't really achieve that kind of damage without this mod. This mod actually triples the damage. So let's say you're doing 100 damage with this mod on, you're gonna do 300 damage, and it is its own multiplier. This is really important because of that, it increases the damage by a lot. Also, I'd like to note that this mod is really hard to get. Previously, there was a event and you can get this fairly easily. But ever since the event ended, according to Wiki, if you look at the mod, it says that there is another enemy in the plains that drops it. But if you go over to the enemy and you look at what he drops, it doesn't say that it drops this, so there's really no confirmation. I tried farming it, but without good confirmation of whether or not it will drop, I gave up pretty early. But I was lucky enough because one of you guys is willing to give me one, and I thank you so much for that. And also because of that, we could actually do this research. Finally, it's about Iron Volt. This mod is affected by power strength and also power range. I cannot really tell with the power range exactly, like how much is if there's a limit or anything like that, but I could tell that it is being affected. When it comes to power strength, it doesn't seem like there is a limit. So right now I have 200% power strength. Now this is the highest that I can go. I can't go any higher because I don't have blind rage. I don't have power, power drift. I don't have glowing power and that other thing that gives you strength when you pick up orbs. I don't have all those things yet. However, with what I have, it did manage to push the damage multiplier to 1000%, and I have calculated this. It is true, and it would also seem that it stands by itself. It's its own separate multiplier as well. This is why it is so powerful. 1000 damage of its own multiplier is like 10 times of wherever the original damage is. Okay, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys enjoy, even though it's just a breakdown of an augment in a really vast content of Warframe. I also wish that I'll see you in the next video and that you'll enjoy that one too. The winners for the Glyphaway will be written in the description below. Don't forget to check it out and PM me on Discord to get your glyph codes. And finally, I guess I just want to say Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye.